So it is advertising, campaign, planning, and execution. Today, what we're looking at is know your audience. Okay? Know your audience. That is, yes, that is when you're advertising, you have somebody or some audience in mind, isn't it? That we will be communicating, or our message will be reaching the following. Okay? So, um, we understand that knowledge is power. Okay? So, the power comes from knowing as much as you can, okay, about your audience. For example, you ask yourself a question: who is buying what you are selling? Eh? Yes. Who is buying what you are selling? You also ask yourself, what are their hot buttons? Buttons means where can I get them? Eh? What are their needs? Okay. And which of those needs, which of those needs is your client's product or service equipped to satisfy? So, what we are saying is you can create the prettiest advert in the world, very good advert. But if it doesn't address the right consumer or customer, you might as well throw your money out the window. Okay. So, uh, enter the research department, for example, as they are all called, or intelligence unit, that is asymmetric intelligence unit. So we are talking asymmetric intelligence unit or the research unit. These units or these departments, their job to gather consumer intelligence that enables everyone else to make intelligent decisions. So what's the best way to do that? Okay. Some of the things we're discussing is research. Unfortunately, you haven't reached research, yeah? But it's an advantage that you should understand research from this point. Okay. So how do you do research? What's the best way to do this? That's simple, I might say. If you want to know something about somebody, just ask them. Okay? If I want to know something about you, I have to ask. Chance. Yeah, okay. If only the world were that simple, sometimes we can just ask, but we are never sure we are getting the correct answer. Okay. So if I ask Chance, do you smoke? He says, no, I don't. If he smokes, maybe. Okay. So sometimes we can just ask. We are never sure we are getting the right answer. So imagine being asked to explain your own habits and preferences. If I ask you just what are your habits and what do you like in life, you will choose whatever you think is best. Some of the things you hide them. Okay. Why do you drink? What do you do? What makes you splash on a certain fragrance? Do you know fragrance, Chelsea? Do you know fragrance?
Fragment.
Fragrance.
Fragment.
Okay.
What's
So,
that?
well, something that looks attractive, good, expensive.
Oh, you mean fragments.
No fragrance. Uh-huh.
I had an idea, but wasn't sure. Just texted Mary. She said exactly nothing.
No problem. So, um, you do research is but what you have to do. And we also know that you have to go beyond the simple questions. Researchers may have tools in their arsenal. You know arsenal?
No.
Tools to fight. A gun is an arsenal. Okay? Anything is an arsenal that you can use to fight with. Okay? So in the 1950s, a psychoanalyst interviewed a few men. Psychoanalyst means analyzing something psychologically. Okay? So in the 1950s, a psychoanalyst interviewed a few men, each of several hours at a time, to find out why they really like to drive cars. That's 1950s, isn't it? So he concluded that to a man, driving is all about sexual conquest. And Eso's tagline, put a tiger in your tank, was born. Okay, when a man driving, even today, do you think sexual conquest?
When a man is driving,
Uh,
is it sexual
conquest.
conquest?
Uh,
Yeah, it is.
what does it mean?
Because most of the girls, when they see a man driving, they get attracted to him.
So that's what this research also found in the 1950s. Okay, that's a man for sexual conquest. So that's why they say Eso's tagline says, "Put a tiger in your tank." Was born. I don't know how this is linked to, but we can find out. Today we find both extremes in consumer research, from up close and personal encounters with consumers in their own homes to massive surveys that yield gigabytes of data. Okay. For example, the Creative Arts Agency is part owner. Okay. We're talking of, before we wander about, we're talking about use of research to hear from the audience. Okay. Do they like what you're producing? Who like what you're producing? Okay. So which technique is the one to use? Here is the clue. Don't be a hammer in search of a nail. You have a hammer and you're looking for a nail. Don't be a hammer in search of a nail. Where you doggedly choose one favorite research method, no matter what the situation. Let's see what your options are. So don't be a hammer in search of a nail. Let's see. First, source of data, primary versus secondary. So there are two sources of data we will be discussing to go and find out information from the audience. Okay? From primary, and then there will be secondary. Okay. Right. So data is the key to knowing the customer. Okay. So an advertiser and its agency can obtain this knowledge from two basic kinds of sources, each with respective advantages and disadvantages. For example, primary data. When we say private data, is the new information gathered directly from respondents the company talks to, surveys, or researchers. Okay? So it's a new, this information has never been generated before. Okay, and so primary research focuses specifically upon the issues that need to be answered to develop the campaign. Okay, so primary research focuses specifically upon the issues that need to be answered to develop the campaign. Okay, so for example, if a company does a telephone survey of consumers, does a telephone survey of consumers. When we say survey, you're trying to seek opinion from people, okay? So it can be by telephone, and this is called a telephone survey. So opinions of the latest ad campaign, okay? That's primary research. You want to hear from the consumer direct what what they are thinking about the latest campaign. Eh? Okay. And it can be expensive. Research. Yes, it's research. You're collecting data opinions from people. You're doing a survey. That's one form of research. And it's expensive, right? But very useful. Okay. But in contrast, secondary data, it refers to information that has already been collected for a previous purpose. And this is often a third party that routinely performs such research. Okay, so secondary data was opposed to primary data is something that has where data that was already collected for a certain purpose elsewhere. Okay. For example, government census data is secondary data. The government collects information about citizens, household size, ages, and income for its own purpose. Okay? So this information is available free in its raw form, and in addition, numerous companies packages it and sell it in various ways to third parties. Okay, let me give you the primary versus secondary examples. So when you're doing primary market research, some of the activities that are involved are in primary, that is, interviews. That means it's a primary to collect data directly from the audience. You can use interviews. And today, you can also use questionnaires online. Send a questionnaire online. Have you ever filled one questionnaire online? Okay, online?
Huh?
Online.
Myself,
And yourself, yeah. Have you filled one questionnaire online ever?
no, but I've just seen people doing
Okay.
like research people were trying to find out from them why is so many so like asking questions. It was like
Okay. You also have phone. Okay. You can call. Then in person, that's face to face, you meet. By mail or intercept. Just meet somebody, say, sir, madam, I would like to talk to you about this one. Okay. Then there can be focus groups. Diaries.
so there can also be primary research.
Yes, what you have written in your diary and I get it.
You are there.
Even yourself, when you can start entering something in your diary about yourself. Eh? So I want to know about you, I can just click the diary. Then there are what we call product tests. And mystery shopping. Okay. So we said primary and secondary, they are sources of data, isn't it? But now we also have what we call type of data. Type of data we have quantitative data and qualitative data. Okay. So here, primary data and secondary data can be either quantitative, that is numerical, or qualitative, that's text. Okay. So when somebody saying quantitative data is data or research results expressed in numerical terms. Okay? Numerical terms.
Like numbers.
Yes. Such as averages, percentages, or statistics, usually based on a large scale sample of respondents. Okay? But when you're talking of qualitative research, is qualitative data is data or research results rather obtained by eliciting stories, anecdotes, and descriptive words, okay, that the emotions, attitudes, and values associated with a product. Okay. Okay. So qualitative research is more open-ended in eliciting the stories. Okay. So quantitative is verbal, while quantitative is numerical. What do we mean by quantitative is verbal?
Mem, qualitative, because it involves description, finding out.
Okay?
Qualitative is kind of descriptive. Yeah, so I don't know how to relate the verbal part.
Okay. So it's text. Okay? Yeah. Quantitative research is usually based on a large scale sample of respondents.
So I thought verbal involves like spoken.
Yeah, it can be spoken, but it's in text. You can speak, but what about if you speak numbers? That will be quantitative, eh? But we're talking about in what form? So it can be, if I say 3 plus 4, that's spoken word, but is it?
So it's also verbal.
It's verbal, but it's it can be verbal, but it's not quantitative because I'm talking about numbers, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
So for the advantage of the quantitative research is usually based on a large scale sample of respondents and is typically expressed in numerical terms, such as averages, percentages, and statistics. So the advantage of quantitative research is its precision in producing a specific answer. It's very precise, such as the number of pizzas sold in March, the number of bags sold in that market at Kawale or Gona. Eh? Okay. Um, okay. So, or the percentage of people who say they plan to buy a product in the next 3 months. Okay. So you can see here differences with quantitative research and quantitative research. That is one-on-one interviews. That's quantitative research. One-on-one. Eh? While quantitative research is about it's a survey. Okay. You can't use a survey for quantitative research. Of course, there are quantitative surveys. I've seen books that there are also quantitative surveys. Yeah. Yeah. Then focus groups, that's for quantitative. While for quantitative, you have online, phone, in person, by mail, intercepts. Intercepts, you just force somebody to talk to you or you persuade somebody, can you answer this question? That's why intercept. Observation techniques, this is qualitative. You just observe something I put down. Eh? Idea generation sessions, yes. Ethnography. Um, you're learning research, okay? Yeah, that's exactly you will find these things in research. Research between qualitative and quantitative, sources of data, primary, secondary. These are things. Okay. So we Describe data along two dimensions, source and type. Okay. Source refers to where we obtain the information. Here, the important distinction is between primary data and we collect specifically to guide the current campaign, and secondary that already exists in some form. Okay. So primary is often preferable, but harder and more expensive to collect. Primary. In some cases, the information we need is out there if we know where to look. So type refers to the form of the data. It is numerical or verbal or observational. Okay. So types refer to the form of the data. That is numerical means quantitative quantities. Isn't it? Data can be generalized. So we can combine one respondent's scores with those of many others to obtain a broad but often shallow picture. Okay. In contrast, verbal observation is quantitative data. It's difficult to generalize because it is coded in words or based upon the researcher's subjective impressions. That's to say, quantitative data you can't generalize. If I find two students at school or three students here, they're drinking beer, I cannot say all students from the University of London drink beer. No, huh? But if I've taken a proper sample from maybe if there are, let's say there are 200 students at Toronto University, and I've talked to 50 after sampling, and out of 50, 35 say they drink beer. So I can say students at Toronto University drink beer. That's generalization. Yeah, talking to a few people, but thinking whatever they say represents those who are in the same population. Okay. So in contrast, verbal or observational qualitative data is difficult to generalize because it's coded in words and based upon the researcher's subjective impressions. It can also be affected by my impression. Okay. So this type of data is useful for generating ideas and drilling down the underlying reasons for consumers' reactions to ads or products. It's also it's not that it's not important. It's important. As we've seen here, that this type of data is useful for generating ideas, and drilling down the underlying reasons for consumers' reactions to ads. So it gives us a narrow but deep picture. Narrow but deep picture. So the deal is to combine both types of data to yield a broad and deep snapshot of our customers. Okay. Snapshot. You know a snapshot?
Snapshot. Like a picture.
It provides a broader picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sources of primary data include focus groups. Yes. So focus group is a group of people, or participants or respondents, you put together in a room, at most 12, or even at least 12. It can be fewer than 12 or more than 12. But should be within range that's acceptable, right? Not 20, not 3. So you ask them question, they discuss, they brainstorm and everything, right? So you take notes, you record, you analyze later. You can also get data from customer interviews, and surveys the company conducts to understand the needs, behaviors. So what are the needs? What are the behaviors and direction of consumers? or other stakeholders such as business customers, vendors, and policymakers. Okay. Regardless of the data collection method, researchers conducting primary research need to decide whether to target a random sample of the entire population or to screen their participants according to a demographic, psychographic, or behavioral profile. Remember yesterday we discussed segmentation, right? Okay. So you can.
No need that
Mm.
they did before.
Okay, the day before yesterday, isn't it? Oh, great, yeah. So you were late that day, unlike yesterday.
Mm.
Okay, so those are sources of data, focus group, private data. Then let's talk about surveys. So we should know that the most common form of quantitative research consisting of questionnaire administered by a mail posting, or telephone, online, or through face-to-face intercepts. So surveys are the most common form of quantitative research. Okay, so they can be conducted by mail or telephone, online, or through intercepts such as when a market researcher stops shoppers in the shopping mall to answer a few survey questions. You can just stop at shop right there with your question in your hand, stopping buyers. Eh? I don't know how much interest this would be in Malawi, but elsewhere people understand. Eh? But here they'll say you're wasting their time, I think. But so it's up to you the way you persuade.
Yeah.
Okay. So this often sheds light onto which publications or media the target audience reads or watches, which enables the advertising agency to fine-tune its message. Okay. So what it means here? This often sheds light onto which publications or media the target audience reads or watches. You know from them that the question they answer, it will tell you which TV they like, which newspaper they read, or which radio. Okay. Uh, Today, mail surveys, people used to post, you can post to people. But now, with online, I think online is overtaking mail surveys.
Yeah.
Because this format allows, why is online preferred to mail survey?
Mm. Online is good because it's fast that you can reach out to people very fast. So
You're right. It's faster, isn't it? So this format allows for instantaneous data collection and analysis. So you can instantly collect the data, but then you can proceed to analyze rather than waiting for printed surveys to be mailed and returned. So this one, you collect the data. It means the data is entered there, and you can start analyzing. Okay. And the online questionnaires are more flexible and cost much less. Okay. Yes. In both cases, however, while respondents are likely to be more honest because they can participate anonymously, we can't be 100% sure who actually responds to the survey or whether the same person is responding multiple times. That's to say, somebody can just be responding to, say, let's say you have this. Have you answered the survey? Say, yes. Can you also answer for me here? As if it is chance answering, but have used somebody else to answer. Unless somebody maybe is answering for a third time. Okay. So, um, there's a way that the okay. So let's continue. So many online surveys basically produce their boring offline counterparts. What do you mean by this? What do we mean? Um, you scroll down the screen and answer a long series of questions by clicking on a number of 1 to 7. But some researchers take advantage of the web's unique capabilities as they create research instruments that are more vibrant and engaging for respondents. For example, an online survey could ask you to watch streaming video of different versions of an advertising execution and then prompt you to select the one you like best. They can post which one do you like? Another might show you color pictures of facial expressions, landscapes, or celebrities and ask you to match them up with different brands. Yeah? Yes. In one creative application, an online research company posted a gift finder on its website. Okay. Find a gift. Okay. So to come with gift ideas for a friend, the user chooses from sets of photos to answer questions about the person, such as their favorite color is, their house color looks, their house looks like. The program then matches the answers with everything from gadgets to books. So this kind of technology allows clients like Vodafone and others to gauge customers' reaction to ad campaigns, identify the clusters of consumers that, so you're following as a question, you're busy because in the end you think you get what?
Man,
Yeah, or yes. Okay.
reward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's what another one, there's what we call brand tags. This is another ingenious application of web research. It shows visitors the logs of big companies and ask them to type in the first word or phrase that pops into their head when they see the log. Okay. Within a few days after it went live, the site attracted more than 30,000 visitors. Okay. A log of Young University just post there. The idea, so you ask people online to type in the first letter that's associated with the log. Type the first word or phrase, not letter set. Yeah, it can be a letter, word or phrase that pops in their head when they see the log. So when you, for example, when you see the log of University, what comes to your mind first? When you see the log for University, what comes to your mind?
Uh, Nothing. I just think it at school.
That's your first word that has come to your mind. Is school.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So results of these snap reactions are reported as a tag cloud, a form in which the size of the word corresponds to its frequency among respondents. Okay, so frequently submitted words are shown in giant type, which are
That that thing is done to like to get more people to know what to do.
the people recognize that this log belongs to this. Okay. Yes. Hmm. Okay. Let's talk about telephone surveys. Um, telephone surveys. Uh, okay, so telephone surveys is an example of a survey which you do by telephone. Simple, eh? But they are flexible but quite expensive, eh? And very low participation because respondents screen calls or put themselves on do not call lists. People may not be willing. Just hello, my name is Chasem Taula. I'm a student from University of Lilongwe. I'm doing research on this and that. Some will just hang up, right? Okay, so often having more flexibility in questioning, but they suffer from high cost and often have lower participation because respondents screen calls or put themselves on do not call lists. Eh? Unfortunately, in recent years, telemarketers who masquerade as survey takers poison the well for legitimate research companies. Okay. In some cases, when they call, usually during dinner, the lower unsuspecting respondents into answering questions until they reveal towards the end that they're actually saying something. So there have been people who have not genuinely been doing research and they have confused. Like, those guys who call you sometimes to sort of ask questions and the likes, and in the end they'll tell you, we are here at there's a border. Katundu one Abuela, which of South Africa. You have received that call? What do you answer? How do you answer those people?
Like just put my body, but you are
Or you can keep it, yes? So, however, as mobile phones continue to evolve into the third screen for many of us, the first two are the TV and the computer monitor. So when we say the phone is going into as a third screen, because TV is the first screen, then the computer monitor is also screen. Then the phone is a third screen. So it's likely that enterprising researchers will discover new ways to collect people's feedback via their phones. For example, there can be a startup company offers an application that enables a client to capture respondents' emotional reactions to an ad or product on their iPhones. Okay. Face-to-face interviews. These are search tools. Yeah. I hope you have read this before. No? Or you're hearing for the first time? Okay, fine. So these are used in advertising as well. Face-to-face interviews provide the most flexibility in questioning. It's clear to the researcher if the respondent is having difficulty understanding the question, but they are time-consuming and very expensive. They are also less likely to yield truthful results for two reasons. They may not yield two results. For two reasons: one, first, being face-to-face with the interviewer, respondents may tend to give answers they think the interviewer wants to hear. Yeah, they say, oh, this guy maybe wants to hear about this, so we try to please you. Second, the interviewer biases. Okay, none of us is bias-free. Nobody is bias-free. Much as we may wish to think of ourselves that way, may skew the results. So the interviewer may be asking biased questions. Okay. So we, after conducting the internal stakeholder interviews and review with the existing data, then understand the consumer's point of view and also test a few hypotheses. You would be drawn based on what you conclude on that. Right? So you see, most of those were about collecting data. So let's go to focus groups. What are these focus groups? Focus groups, often an advertising campaign, seeks to understand more subtle or deeply held attitudes than a survey can capture. So this requires a more exploratory, interactive approach, such as one-on-one interviews between a consumer and a researcher, or through a focus group discussion. So a discussion with a small group of consumers led by a trained facilitator. That's focus group. Eh? Okay. The professional moderator is crucial to this process, preventing vocal members from overwhelming or dominating the group, and definitely handling answers that don't provide meaningful information or answers that a group member gives who is merely trying to impress other members. Yes, this happens a lot. Okay, you're in a focus group. Somebody would like to be talking a lot, to be seen no more than others. So a facilitator or a moderator will try to control that and sift out the responses that are not relevant to what you want. Okay. So focus group discussions usually involve 6 to 10 group members. It depends. Some say up to 12, right? 6 to 10 group members. And discussions are sometimes held in a room with a one-way mirror so that agency executives can watch or videotape the discussion. Right? So listening to real people talk about their product can be a real eye opener for these folks. Okay. So you prepare the questions and all. But then focus group disadvantages to watch out for are that people may be too tired to think after a hectic day, or that they may say what they think the researcher wants to hear, or that they may even feel pressured to make things up. Just make things up. Also, focus groups take people out of their normal lives and put them into a quiet room, which may lose the context of the research experience. They're not in normal situation. You take them somewhere, you put them elsewhere. So they're not in normal to experience real experience. So for this reason, individual or group interviews in natural settings may be more desirable. So having a collaborative discussion with consumers in places where people actually use the products in question, such as a bar for beer, isn't it? When you take church members to discuss something in a bar, okay. Or anywhere where there's product or service being done. Or if you're talking about hairstyle, go to barber shop, isn't it? A restaurant for food, research lab, or an agency's conference room. They provide more fruitful ideas. So some companies try to get consumers input across multiple stages, from focus groups to natural settings like supermarkets. If the product is a packaged food product, to general interest that consumers record. Yeah? So the multifaceted approach imparts richness to the ideas rather than just a slice that a phone interview or focus group can yield. Okay. So that's a focus group. You'll be able to be familiarized with focus group and how it operates, its advantages and advantages. Okay, let's move to ethnography. Ethnography, when we say ethnography, we mean qualitative data can be gathered through an ethnographic study, in which a researcher visits a person's home or a business and directly observes how the customer uses a product. For example, when it is designed, you want to hear about products, whichever product. If you're making, for example, you're making mandazi or some fritters, I can come to your home, stay there and see how you do it, follow you to the market, how you sell, okay? Okay. So I can follow you, follow you through how tea is produced, how coffee reaches to the cup. When you drink coffee, where does it start from? You can take part in that one, from where coffee is produced and where it is sold and where it is ground into the coffee we drink today. Okay. That's ethnographic. Advantages and disadvantages of primary data. Okay. Primary data often is richer and more directly useful. but it also has its downsides. Um, so here we will discuss or we'll provide three advantages. Okay. Number one is specific. Here, the company gets to define the goals of the research and focus the research on their own particular product. So you can make it specific to the product you want, isn't it? You define it. It's what, okay. Number two is proprietary. That means the company um, can keep the results private. Okay. It's their own property. Um, Controlled, the company has a say in which consumers it talks to, the methodology it uses, and the analytical tools it employs. So these are three: specific, proprietary, and controlled. And the disadvantages are it's costly, the company bears all the expenses itself. It's very costly. Then time consuming. The company must wait while its analysis design, execute, and analyze the research. They must wait after data collection, the analysis design, execution, analyze the research. Okay, must wait. Okay. Secondary data. Okay. Secondary data. These number these we'll have number one example of secondary data is government sources. Government sources. Um, a lot of secondary data is available from the government, often for free, because it has already been paid for by tax dollars or tax money.
That's an advantage.
No. Just explaining. It's general view overview. So government sources of data include the Census Bureau or the census we have. Yes. Um, then we also have example of secondary data. We have what we call syndicated sources. Okay. A syndicate of sources. So the syndicated survey um, is a large-scale instrument that collects information about a wide variety of consumers, attitudes, and actual purchases. Companies pay to access the part of this large data set they find relevant. For example, elsewhere they have such companies that collect data and then that data will be sold. Okay? So even yourself, you can start collecting data about products on the market. Keep it and then you can sell it. And then we also have what we call internal secondary sources. So far, we discussed examples of secondary data from external sources, but then sources that are external to the advertisers. But secondary data can also come from internal sources, such as which ones can this be? Internal sources for secondary data?
Internal sources.
Mm.
Just within an organization.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so internal sources can be like the office of accounts,
Mm-hmm.
in the other departments like accounts, so on, marketing.
Yeah, you're right. Even from previous research. Okay, so this is an important source. Okay, okay. Advantages and disadvantages of secondary data. Advantages and disadvantages of secondary data. So, like primary data, secondary data offers pros and cons. So, these are the number one, the advantages. We start with them. Okay, inexpensive. It's not expensive. So, the costs are shared or already paid. The costs are shared or already paid. The ones who collected the data at the beginning, you're just accessing it. Number two, rapidly accessible. So it's rapidly accessible because the data has already been collected and analyzed. So it's already collected and analyzed. Yes. Large sample size. Okay. So it is rapidly accessible because the data has already been collected and analyzed. Then large sample size, the pooled sources of the government agency or trade organizations allow you to survey thousands or millions of people. When you're getting from government, just know that the surveys are large, are big, and then reliable. The external research organization may have years of experience in gathering and analyzing a particular type of data. So it can be reliable, very reliable because coming from. But then we also have the disadvantages of secondary data. It is dated. Dated means it might have been done several years, even months, several years or months ago. Long that its relevance is questionable because it's old data. Okay.
So you can't use what that.
And it depends. Circumstances might have changed. So in changing circumstances and applying data, which is from two different eras, two different periods, might be not of worth. Okay. Then we also have widely disseminated. So, widely disseminated. So a company's competitors have access to the same information when they advise or devise their strategies. You're not the only one. Several others, even the computer, are using the same data. It can be generic or off target, meaning the goals of the external research organization may be different from those of the company. Yes. So to summarize this one, you can know the secondary data is information that already exists in some form. It's up to us just to know how to mine it to get answers we need. Normally, the government is a good source for secondary data about consumers and business. Okay. In addition, many syndicates or many syndicated surveys that private companies conduct provide detailed description or descriptive information about what people think and what they do buy or they buy. So the client itself is often an overlooked source of data. You are yourself the data. When you are working, for example, when you're employed somewhere, you tell them that we can also collect data from here, from our sales department, from wherever, from the accounts as you mentioned, from our previous research. So prior experiences in similar situations or with similar campaigns can help an agency avoid making the same mistakes. twice. Okay. When we meet next time, we also discuss what we call physiological data. Okay.